All right, welcome to our Bach Festival patrons. Thank you for joining us tonight for a very special discussion about our upcoming program, American Folk Songs and Spirituals, at Dr. Phillips Center's Front Yard Festival on Saturday, May 1st. Joining me tonight are conductor John Sinclair and bass baritone Kevin Deas. John?
Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope well tonight. Oh, Bill, good to see you. It's nice to see you, and Donna, and so many friendly faces. Seeing lots of names on there too. I think that's Beppy and Owen in there, maybe. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice to see all of you. You know, I have glasses on, but that doesn't mean I'm seeing anyone at a distance much. Uh, this is a joy to have Kevin on talking to Zoom. We've had a number of conversations in the last little while. Um, there's no surprise to any of you who come to Bach Festival concerts of my love of working with Kevin. It is just an absolute joy. And I don't know, Kevin, how many times have you been to Winter Park to sing with us?
Oh gosh, it would be hard to count them, add them up, but it has to be in 20 or so or more. I mean,
Yeah.
over a couple of decades here. So it's been a
Yeah.
wonderful, long collaboration, very special.
It just didn't seem like it'd be a good year if we didn't have Kevin here singing with us. Uh, so we were figuring what to do on this last concert. And if I remember correctly, we've had to, everything's had to be reprogrammed dozens of times because, oh, we can't do this because of this, and this is not safe. And so we figured out we finally need to get the choir back. We think that most of my choir is vaccinated, and we're going to sing with masks, but we'll be amplified. Kevin won't need a mask; he'll be by himself there. But so we're talking back and forth, and just out of the whim, Rhonda was in my office, and we gave Kevin a call and say, we'd like to do a program. Let's do a program of spirituals and folk songs. And then I think I said something like, Kevin, what are your favorite spirituals to sing? And Kevin, you talk for a minute.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is one of the calls you always hope for as a performer is what would you like to do? And because most of the time I'm being told what I have to do, and fortunately what I have to do is usually things that I really love doing, so it's fine. But it's extra special when you're asked what would you like to do. And so with this whole theme of americana and spirituals was just so inviting to me. So I'm so happy that John thought to ask. The spirituals have been a very special part of my singing experience, and so to be able to share it with a group that I consider pretty much like family down there. I've been there so frequently. I've gotten to know lots of the members of the orchestra and the chorus, and of course Gail and John and everyone. It's always a special experience. I think I told John that really the great coincidence here is the last engagement that I had that was in a concert hall was at Winter Park, and that was in February of 2020. So it seems the right thing, full circle, to come back and do my first concert live performance in Winter Park.
Well, it's completely our joy. So let's talk about the spirituals we're going to sing. I'm a big fan of the great spiritual arranger. I think he collected them and then arranged them of Burley, Henry Thacker Burley. Um, he was really important in music history, not only because he really started by writing art songs. He was his grandfather was a slave, I believe, and bought himself into freedom, and ended up in upstate New York, and he went around collecting these African American spirituals, and of course they were sung to him as a child. But he really started his career as an art song composer, and I think went to spirituals a little later. But his probably biggest influence on the American spiritual is not only the collecting him and arranging these fabulous arrangements, but what he did for Dvorak. That beautiful theme, "Going Home" in the middle of Dvorak Ninth Symphony, was written by Dvorak, but inspired by Burley. And talk to him about the spirituals we're singing that are Burley's.
Yes, we're singing Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. Also, Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho, as well. And then we'll close that group with the great immortal piece, Deep River. And the thing what I love that John pointed out is that his training came through writing art songs, and then he converted into putting the spiritual in kind of the art song format. And I think it was a shared kind of inspiration that happened between Dvorak and Burley, because Burley was Dvorak's assistant in New York. And kind of coincidentally, one of my first professional engagements in New York was at the church where Burley was a singer at St. George's down in Gramercy Square. And so again, I love when there are these kind of serendipitous, circular kind of experiences. And so later on, I ended up touring with this producer, Joseph Horowitz, and it was all about Dvorak being in America and deciding to actually to use music from the American music making tradition as the foundation for the classical school of writing. And but this did not go over well. America at that time was so Eurocentric that they did not like the idea of using the Negro spiritual as a source for classical repertoire, nor were they big fans of using Indian music. And Dvorak wanted to do all of that, Native American music and African American spiritual tradition, and structure it in the classical tradition.
Yeah, such amazing life, and his contributions so profound. And interesting sidebars. The American Conservatory, where Dvorak was the director for a few years, which brought him to the United States, Burley couldn't get in at the first time, and he re-auditioned, finally got accepted into that, and the person who paid for his tuition was the mother of McDowell, the famous American pianist. And so there were people making sure that his talent was noticed from an early age. But anyway, I'm such a fan of Burley. And the good news, if you like spirituals, you're going to get to hear a lot of them, because this is the beginning of a project shortly after we start looking at these orchestrations. And I need to mention that up front. We have a young man, as you've heard a lot of his writing here lately, McLean Sherrard. And I go to him a lot for orchestrations and arrangements. And I went to McLean and said, we want to do this program. I have never heard these Burley spirituals orchestrated, but boy, would that be nice to hear all those colors and that sound that I feel when I hear these pieces. And McLean took on the task, and I just think they're splendid. And so this now has turned into a project. It's going to be a multi-year project for Kevin and myself at the Bach Festival, where we're going to do another whole set of these, and maybe add another singer if he wants, and put choir behind a few of them. And we want to do a whole recording of some of these orchestrated spirituals. And probably you'll hear more of them next year when Kevin comes. Matter of fact, I got to get a hold of your agent to get that date cleared, Kevin. And then you'll hear more of it. You'll hear just more and more of this repertoire, with hopefully ending in a fabulous recording. Also, Kevin threw another piece. He said, "How about we do Sweet Little Jesus Boy?" One of my favorites. I remember you saying it's out of season, and my thought was, there's never a season you shouldn't sing that piece.
Absolutely.
It's fabulous.
Yes. I've sung an orchestral arrangement of it in Europe and in Germany and around the country. And the one thing I love about the spirituals, as well as other folk music traditions, is its simplicity. And I think it's something that is universal. I actually did an interview with Matt from the Sentinel, and I told him that I did a summer festival in Italy, and maybe a third to half of the members, the participants in that festival, were Chinese, and they didn't speak any English at all. And I sang Deep River for them one morning for a master class, and they were in tears. They had a general sense what it was about, but they didn't know the words that I was singing. But that suggests that that's really evidence of the profundity of these pieces, that it's so universal that everyone seems to be able to relate to them.
Yeah, to me, the spiritual is a true American art form. It's hard to put your hands on anything else that has that kind of roots in America.
Yes.
And some of them from from awful, dreadful roots. But
Yeah.
the fruit is sweet, the result of the spirituals.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm always love them because they are so sincere. They are genuine. There is no pretense. Now, some of them may have, some of the spirituals that we'll do in years to come, they may be songs that are telling people how to escape. They were songs that told you stories.
That's right.
But the ones we're doing this, at least by my research, the ones we're doing this time are just some of the greatest hits of spirituals. And if you don't know the McGimsey "Sweet Little Jesus Boy," it's a classic. It is. Although I wouldn't sing in public anymore, I'm too much of a gentleman to sing anymore. But it's my favorite piece to sing. I love to sing it. But all you people on here, you don't have to worry. You're not going to hear me sing. It's Kevin you're going to get to hear singing.
My mother, my dad was in the military, and we were stationed at a reserve. My dad was stationed at a reserve station in Saco, Maine. And so a lot of my family ended up staying in Maine, and every Christmas, my mother, up until she'd reached her 80s, would sing "Sweet Little Jesus Boy" in one of the small churches up in Waterville, Maine. And they wouldn't think to have a Christmas service without hearing that. It's just so poignant, and it's such a beautiful setting.
You bring up an interesting point that I had never known. Was your mother a singer then?
Well, she sang. In fact, she claims to have all, I wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for her in terms of my career. She was carrying me when she conducted the children's choir at King Solomon Baptist Church in Fort Smith, Arkansas. So now there's been a lot of research to show how babies, before they're born, while the mother is still carrying them, are sensitive to these vibrations that come in, and that they often develop an interest in music kind of based on what they heard even before they were born. Mm-hmm. So I guess she has an argument for making that case. I put a lot of work into it myself, but she really really felt like it was because I was feeling those vibrations as a child. And she had a lovely mezzo soprano alto voice, and it was very sweet, velvety kind of sound. And my dad, I feel like I'm kind of the amalgamation of the two of them in terms of their singing. My dad was much more the orator. He would preach in church, and he was much more about dramatic kind of singing. But my mother had the sweeter side of the sound. So I try to reflect both of their qualities in singing.
That's a great story. I didn't know. So let's talk a little bit about the rest of the program. On the program also are a couple of arrangements of spirituals that Steal Away, that Kevin is singing with us. It's a John Rutter arrangement with choir as the backup singers. And also, sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child. Another guest soloist, Meredith Wooden, will be singing that piece with choir. And then the choir will sing an arrangement of When the Saints Go Marching In. So the program is not only spirituals, it's folk songs. And that one kind of fits into, I don't know where that fits, but it's kind of both. I kind of think it fits both. And then we also have a very famous old spiritual. Now, I don't know if you knew this, Kevin, unless you saw the program order, but I also told McLean I wanted to sing an old traditional choral spiritual. But I was a little nervous singing outside, that the choir could actually hear the pitch and get it started together. So I gave him the old Ride the Chariot.
Yes.
To orchestrate.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Isn't that a great spiritual?
He must have the best time writing that, because it's already such a visual piece.
Oh, it is. It is great fun. So it gives us a little introduction, and then we jump into it. And it was so much fun the other day. We were practicing out in the loading dock at the college, outside on a Monday evening about 7 o'clock, and here walks out Curtis Ram. And so I stopped Curtis and said, "Okay, Curtis, give us some advice here. How's the tempo? How's the style? What are we doing?" And Curtis broke into singing it, And we all got tickled because he dang near went through half the piece before I could get him to stop for us to keep going back to do it. But it's one of, I love all those spirituals, and so that's in the program as a spiritual. The folk songs on the program, and almost kind of Southern harmony folk songs are "Saints Bound for Heaven," "Come Thou Fount," and then a beautiful arrangement of Shenandoah. And those three pieces are actually Mac Wilberg settings, and that means they were written for the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. So those are the kind of pieces that are, and they're orchestrated for them too. So those will be featured. Jamie Ray wrote us a magnificent setting of Amazing Grace. He wrote it for the installation of the college president, Grant Cornwell. And it is a fabulous arrangement. And I remember sitting in my office, and we were having a discussion with Grant, Jamie, and myself about what music he wanted at the installation service. And he mentioned Amazing Grace, and he said, I'd love to have a little gospel flavor in it. So Jamie, as soon as he left, Jamie said, okay, I'm going to write it like Mac Wilberg does at the beginning, and then I'm going to break you into a full-fledged gospel interlude, and then bring you back out and let you in like the Mormon Tab. And that's what you got on this one. And if you haven't heard this arrangement, it is a lot of fun. So let's talk about the anything else on the. We'll give you time to write chat in if you have questions, but also let's talk about some of the folk songs. My introduction on this, and then Kevin, you should take it away, is the story I heard. Now, Bill Gallo could probably correct me on this one if I'm wrong, but the story I heard was that Aaron Copland was studying with Nadia Boulanger as an expat, and he took her a motet for a writing assignment. Here's a motet. And by the way, the motets are beautiful. They don't sound like American motets. They're very lovely though. And evidently she looked at him and said, and I don't get you Americans. You come over here and you write like Europeans when you have all that great music at home. Why are you not using that great music? And so here we have a person of the Jewish faith from Brooklyn who writes some of the most visceral American music you can imagine. And you're going to hear some of it. You're going to hear the Simple Gifts from Appalachian Springs. You're going to hear Hoedown as well. And then you're going to hear another instrumental. These are orchestral pieces by Morton Gould called American Salute. And that is a When Johnny Comes Marching Home piece. It's really, really fun. But we're featuring some Aaron Copland songs. He loved Americana songs. So Kevin, tell him what you're singing, and then I'll have to fill in the rest of them.
Okay, I'm singing At the River, which is a really old hymn, and then I'm also doing I Bought Me a Cat. And there's one thing I'd like to say about doing the Copland old American songs is one of the most memorable experiences I've had in my career was actually singing those pieces with the Chicago Symphony. It was Alan Gilbert was the music director at that point. He was a guest director, and he went on to be the music director at the New York Philharmonic. And I just thought, it's hard to get better than this. I'm here in the heartlands, and I'm surrounded by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra just playing so beautifully. It was really, I felt transported and just so blessed to have had that opportunity. So these songs have been favorites of mine. I've sung them in Europe as well. And Europeans love things that are Americana. I don't know why Americans are so reluctant to build a music tradition of their own, but it's somehow, you look at Europe for some kind of, I don't know, just legitimacy or something. But, it's something that people just love doing. If I could just kind of say another sidebar
Please.
I also had a lot of fun singing Porgy and Bess in Moscow. And you have never seen a Russian choir singing Just a Bubbling, Nothing Troubling Me. It was hilarious and wonderful to sing. I mean, they cared so much about it. But the link there is that Gershwin was his ancestry was Russian. And so while it on the surface seems so disparate that you'd have this, you know, something that's purely American, the great American opera and everything, but they related to so much of that aesthetic and they cared. So are we getting just the bubbling right? And I'm like, yes, it's very it's good.
That's funny. I didn't know you'd had that opportunity to sing that in Russia.
It's so in Russia, but it, you know, this again, the universality of music. It's just
sure.
That is amazing.
It is amazing. The other pieces in that from the old American songbook of Copland will be Little Horses and Zion's Wall, and let me not forget. Let's see, long time ago.
Right.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
And Meredith will be singing those, and the choir will be enjoying listening to them. And I keep that song of the Chicago Symphony in your head. We're going to try our best, but that's going to be a hard bill to fill. And outdoors. So what have I missed on the program that we haven't talked about, Rhonda or Kevin? We haven't talked about
the Shaker Melody.
We mentioned the Appalachian Spring, Simple Gifts, yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, Kevin.
Always good to see you.
You too.
So the program, we will do it without intermission. That way, once you get to your boxes at Dr. Phillips and you're safely in your boxes, you'll be able to go straight through the program. It's this very wonderfully safe place to hear a concert. If you've not been there, we were there just last week listening to Bethune-Cookman sing, and it's a really wonderful place to listen to a concert. And you'll have the choir down, orchestra up on the stage, and the choir across the front, and the choir will be in the first couple of sets of pods turned towards you too. And I haven't figured out where I am, but I'm the least important in the group, but that I'm somewhere there. And it ought to be. I have loved folk songs and spirituals, especially spirituals, my whole life, and so this is just a joyous concert. And I can't think of a better program to let the choir come back out and sing. This is a perfect one for them to make their re-emergence here. Although we sang all year, and there wasn't hardly a week that went by that we didn't have a rehearsal, and they were either Zooming in, or we were streaming a rehearsal, or they were in the parking lot, or a small group of them in the hall. This is the first time together, and we will have a little over 100 of our members back singing. So it's not going to be a small little force. It won't be our full force, but there'll be, I think the number we have is in 106 or something singing with us. So it'll sound like the Bach Festival Choir coming at you. And our rehearsals outside have been such a joy. I feel it's medicinal for all those making music, and it's certainly medicinal for me to hear it.
It is. I have one of my graduate students at Princeton is actually doing a study about how when choruses come in and they meet, they get together and start performing, that actually the pulse and the heartbeats start to synchronize.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of such an astonishing thing, and that's why I think that the choral singing is something even larger than we can be aware of at times, because how we connect, it's the social experience and the shared experience. It's so important to so many people.
It's so powerful. It is. I remember asking Joanne Rogers one time what was her favorite musical experience she had. You know, she was a pianist, and I expected her to say playing piano duets, and she said no. It was those years and years singing in the Mendelssohn Choir in Pittsburgh. She said there was something about putting my little voice out there and combining with everybody's voice that created this sound that you could only hope to be a part of. I had heard that thought that the heartbeats synchronize.
Yes.
Makes you wonder about levels of cholesterol and things, though, that before you get there. But I've heard that too. I've heard that there's after a while there's something sinks in and people
Yeah,
become thinking
because
in one
you're
unit.
breathing at the same time, and and the intention is conjoined, and so yeah.
Yeah,
it's in-
it's fascinating. Do we have any questions for Kevin, the project I'm calling your agent about is, we're going to repeat the Ordering of Moses.
yes,
And then we're next, and then on that program, we're going to introduce a few more spirituals.
wonderful.
So we can start getting that whole repertoire out there and practice. So then we can go and record it all at one time
This
or
is
over a couple of days.
this is one of the things I admire so much about you, John, is that you are just fearless in terms of pursuing repertoire. I mean, and as an African American singer, it's so easy to become
Going over there?
pigeonholed into certain kinds of repertoire, and John has given me the full range of repertoire, from very modern, from Ellington to Bach. I'm not getting it chronologically correct, but I think you know what I'm saying. We've gone through all of the ages and eras, and it's been a real blessing, John. I really want you to know that.
Well, it's a blessing that you're willing to go on that journey with us. I mean, that's the blessing. This is, that there, you say I'm fearless. I would turn it around and say the other way. You take on any project. You know that. Do you know that? I mean, he takes it on with such grace. And one of my favorite things you've sung with us. Well, I don't have really favorite. Everything you do with us is phenomenal. But he recorded those songs of love and war of Paul Moravec. And if you don't have that recording, it brings tears to my eyes every time I hear you sing that last. And we recorded those out separately because he was up in New York and we laid the track down. And if I remember correctly, you met Jamie at the school one afternoon on your way to Sarasota or something.
Yes.
Came in the studio, and those lie really high for you, but you sound fabulous on them. And Jamie said he came in, knocked him out in one time. He said he wasn't, because I was going to come upstairs and see you. And time I came upstairs, you were gone. Jamie said he went through it one time, and that was it. And so I asked Jamie, did you bow to Kevin as he left, doing that in one take?
Well, he has such positive energy. Love of music and his just fundamental goodness as a person made that process go quite easily, quite comfortably.
Well, it is a joy. Anytime I get to make music with you, it's a better day. So does anyone have any questions for us? I don't know if you have a chat where you're allowed to.
We do. We got a comment about the choir and how excited is everyone to be back? What was the general sense of getting them all together?
Well, our intent was to originally have them back and to do this program in February as the close of our festival. That's when we talked to Kevin originally. And you remember there was a big surge at that point. And I remember going to choir rehearsal, and my exact phrase, I think, was, "I love you too much to ask you to sing right now. We can't do this. And even if we put masks on you and spread you out, I wouldn't feel good about this." And so we just put it on the back burner. I think I'm not probably the best to speak for them, but the enthusiasm that they have shared with me is overwhelming. Probably the most difficult thing for the choir was the first time we met in little groups of 20 or so. The first time we had an outdoor rehearsal of about 75 or to 100 people.
Yeah, I know it's full.
And they were there, and there was such a energy. It was difficult to remind people not to hug each other as they came into the space again to make music. It was almost as if I said to them,
No.
"I feel you taking a collective breath, just a breath of relief that we're back." So that would be my answer. You might have a choir member or so who would add to that. But
yeah, we've got a couple comments in here. Was there anything that you had to do differently to program this for the outdoor venue at Dr. Phillips?
I knew that given as little rehearsal time as we had, I couldn't throw too much at the choir. I maybe could have thrown a piece or maybe one more or two, but I thought that it'd be better to do ones that make sure we're really comfortable with them. I wanted ones that showed the whole range of the choir. So the Ride the Chariot is a completely different sound than Shenandoah, which is a completely different sound than Saints Bound for Heaven, and completely sound from the Saints Go Marching Home. And so you're going to get a whole range of sounds from the choir. That was one big thing I wanted to do, and that made it a little more difficult, but I wanted to be sure that happened. And I also wanted to make this such a joyous experience to sing. I didn't want it to be, not that singing Bach or Beethoven's not joyous, but out in the front yard, we needed to sing something fun as we came out first time. And I think we've accomplished that.
Okay. Is there anything we should look forward to from the orchestra?
The three pieces for the orchestra, well, are going to be fun. You know, Hoedown, I think they always have a fun time playing that. And the Simple Gifts, Shaker Melody, it's just so profound, so beautiful. What is the real name of the Shakers? The Society for the Belief in Christ's Second Coming. And they called them Shakers because they would convulse when they would start to dance. And the reason they would convulse when they started to dance was because part of their religion is they would live communally. The men in one place and the women in another, and the children were raised by the group in their colonies. And the only time they actually kind of touched the opposite gender was when they danced. And I always think that's why they broke into convulsions. But that's just a musician's perspective. It has nothing to do with anything intelligent commentary. And then the American Salute, a bit of trivia. Morton Gould actually passed away in Orlando. He was here doing a project for Disney World. So, as you know, he wouldn't have died on the property, though. They'd have to remove probably somewhere else. But anyway, Morton Gould is a great American writer too. So I think the orchestra is thrilled to be playing. You know, they've been playing all year in these concerts, and they're very grateful for the support of the society. I can tell you they are forever thanking us for continuing to make music throughout this pandemic. It's what we should be doing. It's the moral and the ethical thing to do, and everyone needed it for the lift of their spirits. So they played for Voctave concert. As you know, they did a festival. We did our festival, and we did an opening fall concert of movie music. This one, though, is going to feel more normal to them because while they are highlighted on some pieces, they're kind of in their regular role on this one, which is accompanying the choir and soloist.
Okay. All right. Terrific. So we just have one comment that you often use Jamie Ray and McLean Sherrard as arrangers for the pieces. What makes their work so fitting for the Bach Festival?
Easy for me to say because Jamie, when he was a student, sang all 4 years in the choir. He loves singing in the choir. And so Jamie knows our sound, and he knows me. He knows what I want to hear and how I want to hear it. So I think it makes it fun for him to write for people he knows, and he knows what sounds they want to hear. McLean also was a student, now has been out of school for a few years, and he studied with both Jamie and with Dan Crozier, also two people who know me well and know the organization well. McLean's still singing in the choir. And so they have a vested interest because this is their choir. This is their organization. It's not like an outside arranger writing for someone. They're writing for their home people. And both of them are so skilled. Jamie's turning into a rock star here. If you're not following his career, and I couldn't be more proud. So I don't have anything but to say, but I just love working with both of them, and I'm so proud of what both of them are doing.
Okay, great. Kevin, what do you've been to Orlando so many times now, and Winter Park specifically? What are your favorite things about coming back here so often?
Well, mostly again that I know where I'm going and I know who I expect to see when I get there, and it feels like home when I'm there. And a lot of my friends, oh, you must go to Disney or Epcot or whatever. I don't tend to do any of those things when I'm performing, because one thing, I tend to yell on or scream on rides, so that would be not a positive thing when I have to perform. So I really stick to whatever whatever musical offering we're presenting, and it's just lovely. I mean, Winter Park is just such a beautiful spot just in the world, and so I always enjoy it. And then we always get time. I get time to spend with John and Gail and Rhonda socially, and it always feels like a fortunate thing when I'm there. But yeah, I shop too much on Park Avenue, all of that. But it's a lovely place to be. And my friends, all my colleagues are jealous. Well, how do you get that job? Because especially when doing things in the wintertime, they're like, how did you score that one? And I'm like, well, just because I've been very fortunate.
You don't tell them, do you?
and you're immensely talented. I mean, it is my colleague Ed Leroy, who retired a few years ago, and you know Ed well.
Yeah.
Ed used to say, anytime you can hire Kevin, hire him, John. He was absolutely right. And so I do. You're always my first call for this repertoire. Any repertoire we do.
Thank you so much.
Well, no, we're the one grateful. And I promise you, you're fix a mushroom soup while you're here.
Oh, yum.
We have a favorite place we get mushroom soup, and so if something ever happens to me, I want that fed to me intravenously. It is the best stuff. And so I promise we'll get a fix of mushroom soup.
Fantastic. I just happened to go to Edmund's senior recital when I was a freshman at Juilliard. And
you did?
Yeah, and I didn't go to many recitals there. I went to some, but for some reason, well, actually, Ed and I studied with the same teacher, Hans Heinz.
Okay.
And so Hans was saying, I think you would really be interested if you could go and hear this recital. And I'll never forget hearing him sing then. I mean, we were both so much younger. And then again, another full circular thing to be reconnected, reunited down in Winter Park was such an incredible thing. He's a lovely, lovely artist, wonderful person.
Yeah. No one sang art songs leader better than Ed. I mean, it was just the most stunning. I remember I came here as my first year. I wasn't quite sure, I knew I was mainly here to wave my arms, but I thought, well, my last place, I sing a little bit and I'll do a recital when I get here. Well, it was in October, my first year here. I went to hear a recital of Ed's. And I came home and I said, I'm not singing any here. No. This would just embarrass everybody. Anyway, he's so gracious. So, and I'm glad I didn't know you heard his recital.
Yeah,
have fun.
I just happened to go, and I never forgot.
Well, he's a fan of yours, that's for sure. Well, is there any other questions, Brian?
I do have one more. What's it like working with guest artists who you don't really have the opportunity to rehearse with until, right up until the program?
Kevin might be better. I'll give you my perspective, but I'd love to hear Kevin's. One of the great things about Kevin is that he always comes so prepared. So, and also, he is not shy with me for sure, and which I like, of can we pull this a little bit here? Can we speed this up a little? In other words, it is such a collaborative music making experience. It's not, this is the way I want it. I kind of view my role with accompanying a soloist as an accompanist, not as I'm in charge. It's rather, I'm here to facilitate what you need to do to create your art. So we work so collaboratively, but Kevin's so easy because he comes in so prepared that we have a lot of fun in rehearsals. I don't ever remember, Kevin, a time when and all the times that we've ever had any tension, actually, even in rehearsals. I mean,
I think we had this synergy that started right off from the first time that I came down, and that doesn't always happen. And sometimes it's not a well-formed joke, but I muse to myself and I think, which came first, being a conductor or having a huge ego? I mean, do you have a massive ego and then decide, okay, I got to do something about this. Let's conduct. I'll conduct. Or do you have a big ego? I don't know, whatever. So the thing that I love about John is the music is always to the fore. It's all about the music, and that it is an actual collaboration. A lot of my initial jobs out of college were ensemble work with a vocal ensemble and everything, and so I love the sense of ensemble, and that you're working with the person that the conductor or other colleagues who are performing with you. And so I really felt like there hasn't been a clunker in all these decades in terms of like another obnoxious singer or some sort who has too much attitude and maybe not enough voice. And it's always been a wonderful balance of both good people and good artists. And that's a tribute to John and his sense of what artistry should be.
Well, you're kind. You're kind. You're kind, but the joke you should have then in your repertoire is, what's the difference between God and a conductor? And the answer is, God knows he's no conductor. So there's, I have, in addition to viola jokes, I have the whole repertoire of conductor jokes too. See, I've never understood that mindset of a conductor, because to me, it is, what you're doing, waving your hands, doesn't make any noise. You better be nice to the people in front or behind, in front of you. And then my job's really not, I'm kind of like a head waiter. I'm supposed to deliver a nice product to the people dining. And so I've never understood, and yes, I've worked with those people too, and they just make me, what they do is they make you nervous, and that means you don't do your best product.
Right. I mean, I feel the same way with my teaching. I think that some of my students think that as a teacher, I should be harder on them and very negative and hypercritical. And I don't think that music comes from that kind of energy, good music. I mean, and I know, having gone to Juilliard, there were some teachers who it was all about them, and they would impose their will in terms of how they felt the voice needed to work. I really feel that I want to coax from them, kind of draw out of them something that's organic, not feel as if I'm imposing something on them. Music shouldn't have an imposition placed on it. It's something we can only hope to reveal, and through honesty and being truthful.
Yeah, it's such a powerful medium. So are there any other questions for us, Brian?
That's all we've got, unless anyone would like to add something in the chat. Waiting to see.
Okay.
All right.
Do we have the good question for you? Do we have people coming to the concert?
We do have people coming.
Good. Here.
We do. We've got several hundred will be there, and we're looking forward to many more getting their tickets in the coming week. Hopefully, we have good weather. At this point, it does look like it will be a nice night in the 70s, partly cloudy. So,
perfect.
The best weather we could have for May evening, and you can still get your tickets at bachfestivalflorida.org, which will send you over to the Dr. Phillips site. But it'll be great. The great thing about this performance is you have the opportunity to have all of your drinks and food delivered to your pod. So you never have to get up. You can order it on your phone. They'll have a QR code where you can view a menu, and they'll have a variety of different restaurants that you can order from. So really, it's going to be a very special treat for those that, maybe want to avoid having to go find somewhere to eat, and they can do everything at Dr. Phillips. They're also offering valet parking. So if you're worried about parking, you can add that onto your ticket purchase, so you don't have to worry about finding a garage or a parking space.
Fabulous.
All right. Well,
can Kevin and I get valet parking too?
Yes.
That's the question we want to know.
We'll make sure to take care of your cars.
Okay. we maybe can get close there. Any other questions? Is that, I'm seeing names. I'm so nearsighted and looking at names here, so it's
We had a
great to have-
lovely chat discussing the heartbeat rhythm, or the continuity of the heartbeat. So that was one that got a lot of feedback. Beppy Owen says, thank you for the wonderful conversation tonight. So that's great.
Beppy.
Tim and Diana Sisley are excited, and let's see, they're excited to be performing. And we've got Mother Elizabeth. Do you know Mother Elizabeth?
I probably do. We had a sidebar. I have so many friends within this. Beppy and Boron came over to the house once during the pandemic, and we sat out on the front, our little front porch, and they were on their side of our front porch, and we were on our side of the front porch, and had our own little tables, and we're socially distanced, but we had the best time. And that was that. I think that was our Gail and my first actually interaction with anyone in a close, and Beppy and Boron made that happen, and that was really fun. We very that felt like a little bit of almost normalcy. Yeah. So any other questions? If not,
I think we're all
out of
set.
ideas. I love hearing Kevin talk, but I'm tired of hearing myself talk.
Right.
No, I'm fine. I'm good.
Well, Kevin, thank you again for joining us. Certainly appreciative of your time, and the article that Kevin was interviewed for should be out in the Sentinel. I would guess this weekend or early next week. So I'm not sure of the timing on that, but we'll be sure to post that on our website for access whenever that does come out. And just thank you all again for joining us. Tickets again at bachfestivalflorida.org. We do still have some great seats available, so there is a wide variety of angles and views for you to choose from. But I hear it's a wonderful place to view a concert, as John mentioned earlier. So if that's it, we'll say goodnight.
Thank
Kevin,
you all.
you take good care of yourself. I'll look forward to seeing you soon. All of our friends out there, and please take care of yourselves, will you?
I will. I'm looking forward to it so much. Thanks so much, John. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.